Hi guys, so this is Joey or Rowan. This video is going to be about the Esbat ritual and ritual in general, covering what is a ritual from a basic perspective for beginners and why to do one, and all the things that go on with that. Before we do that, I have 3 things to show you, which I considered putting in a different video tomorrow, but I thought, meh. So I went and got some nail varnishes the other day, and the first one is a nude. It's called Nude, yeah, Nude by Barry M. And this is, my new best friend, Aqua Glitter. Oh, I've got it on my nails. How pretty. So I got those 2, and I picked up the first autumn leaf. We are getting to autumn. Fantastic. Yay! Right. Anyway, so this is for beginners really. Just going through the idea of ritual. I'm going to go into specific things in more detail in other videos. This is just basically what is a ritual and why do a ritual. Okay, so I started with a dictionary definition. You can go to dictionary.com and find this. So the dictionary definition is an established or prescribed procedure for a religious or other rite, and a rite being a formal or ceremonial act. Obviously, ritual can apply to many different religions and sort of rituals outside of the religious aspect. But for a pagan definition, mine, because it can be quite difficult to find other pagans' definitions. They seem hesitant to put what a definition is. They sort of cover how to go through it, but not what it is. So my definition is a formal celebration following prescribed guidelines, usually, and it's a celebration of the divine, goddess and god, whereby you enter the sacred space, circle, with the purpose or intent of honouring and or conversing with divinity or with the element spirit. Forms of divination and spellwork may also take place within ritual, as these are forms of asking the divine/universe for something, be it answers through divination or a gift, usually through spellwork. Okay? Why we perform rituals at the Esbat. Now, I'm not covering other rituals within this because this is primarily a Esbat ritual video for the blue moon. Right, the full moon Esbats are celebrated by witches in honour of the goddess. The full moon is symbolic of the pregnant mother, and the goddess is mother to us all. The god takes a back seat and lets her shine, literally. The full moon is a potent time where energies shift and become more powerful, blue moon especially so, being a special event. Okay. So, basically, what a ritual is a time where you connect with the goddess and the god, and Esbat specifically being goddess energies more than the god. The god takes a back seat. So you go into ritual with the intent of honouring, saying thank you, maybe conversing, maybe looking for answers, maybe to seek some sort of peace within yourself. All these concerns of daily life are put aside, and you enter the circle, and in another world, in another, it says a sacred space, and you go into this place to connect with something more meaningful. So I've structured the rest of this like questions that new people might ask. Do I need to do a ritual at all? I would recommend ritual work if you are serious about being a witch. If you can't be bothered, it's a very good indicator that this isn't the path for you. I've said before that being a witch or being pagan can be hard work. You do need to put effort in. It is really, really rewarding, but you do need to put the effort in. People hear the word ritual or ceremony and assume it will be a stuffing, boring affair, but in the pagan path this isn't the case. Ritual is a spiritual experience where you honour and connect with the gods, or goddess specifically in the case of the Esbat, but it's a joyous event. There is no need to be wary about ritual. It doesn't need to be complicated or even pre-planned. Some of the most beautiful experiences I've ever had in the circle weren't planned or written down, they came from the heart. But aren't rituals formal affairs? Yes and no. There are prescribed guidelines to follow in ritual which are especially handy for beginners and can be found in most pagan books, Wiccan books. I have a perfect example here, and I will go through setting up ritual in more depth, step by step, in a different video. This is just covering what ritual is, the basics, to begin with, the very first ritual video. So Scott Cunningham's Wicca that's what the book looks like. This is a book I would really highly recommend. It has a lot of stuff about ritual in a really basic way, and there are different chapters, and he's one of the few people to define his definition of what ritual is and when you need to do them and how you need to do them and blah blah blah. So if you want to follow a book to begin with, this is a really good one. He sets out the 9 basic components of Wiccan ritual. Purification of self, purification of space, creating sacred space, invocation, ritual observance on Esbats and Sabbats, energy raising during magic, earthing the power, thanking the goddess and god, breaking the circle. These are Wiccan traditions. Not everybody follows them. However, I would recommend, especially for beginners, that you follow these guidelines. Purification of self is quite important, very important, because you are cleansing yourself of all the day's dirt and grime and negativity, and you are preparing yourself to honour the goddess. You're going into her sacred space, so you're not going in there carrying all the negativity of the day or sweat and dirt of the day. You are cleansing yourself before you go before her, honouring her. Purification of space, cleansing away all negativity so nothing is going to interfere with your rite, with your honouring the goddess. You cleanse the space, and so then it is ready to become sacred space. The creation of sacred space here is basically the casting of the circle. I will do a separate video covering each one of these steps in more detail, how I would do it step by step. So if you're watching this video and thinking, but I don't know how to do any of these, don't worry, I will cover them in a different video step by step, or you could go get a book. And I mean, this book is where the steps are in. I'm quoting directly from him, and I've done this on purpose so that if anybody wants to go and get the book from which I am referring, it's easy for them to go find the physical written down text version, rather than just watching the video and thinking, well, I don't know how to do this, this and this. Well, I will cover each individual step in a different video, but you can also get the book. So creation of sacred space is the casting of a circle. Invocation, the charge of the goddess, and there are many, many different variations, and some people write their own, of charge of the goddess, which is and the drawing down of the moon. This is, I will cover both of those because they really do need their own video to describe and explain them and talk about them. But those are usually found in Esbat rituals all the time. If they're doing a very informal affair, you still might include something which might not be the full charge of the goddess, but you would still honour her. So it's honouring her and taking her energy into you, are those two things. The charge of the goddess is honouring her, invoking her, calling her to you in a polite sense. Charge of, drawing down the moon is taking her energies into you. Okay. You can write your own rituals or follow those outlined in a book or online. I read somewhere, this is the next question I have written down. I read somewhere that I must do a ritual a certain way and I must be naked, but I'm not comfortable with that. Help. Firstly, you don't need to be in the nude. You don't need to be. There was a lot of that when I first started reading. It's different in solitary and in covens, obviously, but personally it's not something I would feel comfortable with, especially if I was to be outside. I might consider it if I was on my own in my home, but generally speaking I don't think there's any need for it. There are some Wiccans who will say that clothing inhibits the flow of energy, but to me that doesn't make any sense. We use materials within magic all the time. We use sachets and poppets and bags and things, and that is part of the spell work itself. You could wear specific clothing, colour code it, or have special clothing that you wore at the time so it was just for ritual. That makes a lot of sense, just because it's changing your mindset from mundane everyday to special magical workings. That's fine, but if anyone ever tells you you have to be naked in a ritual, I would walk away from them. Do you have to follow a specific guideline to do a ritual? Well, a ritual by definition is following the predetermined outline. The predetermined outline, such as the one I read by Scott Cunningham, so again, purification of self, purification of space, creating sacred space, invocation, ritual observance on Sabbats and Esbats, energy raising during magic, earthing the power, thanking the goddess and god, breaking the circle. They're pretty good ones to follow for beginners and for people who have been doing it a long time, just because most of them make a lot of sense within the ideas of honouring the goddess or god. But I mean, there are alternatives that you can do, and I'll cover those in a second. But if you were going to do a proper ritual, then I would follow those guidelines. But then anything else within it, the invocation, you could change and you could write your own. The way you call on the goddess, the way you speak to the goddess, your spell work, you can do that the way you want to do it. There's a lot of allowance for personal expression within ritual. Rituals are supposed to be a joyous celebration. You're supposed to have fun with it. A lot of people worry, and when I started I worried I wasn't going to do it right, or you know, the goddess wouldn't listen. And some of the best experiences I've had is I've not gone in with anything written down. I know the gist of what I want to say in here, but I haven't written it down, so I'm just speaking as it comes to me, speaking through my heart through her, and that way is a way of connecting with the god and the goddess on a very personal level, because that's something that you are doing from the heart rather than whittling about it. Okay, so some alternatives to ritual. I've put these in here because not everybody can do a formal ritual. Not everybody can cast a circle and be within sacred space, and not everybody can do a formal ritual, basically. There are all sorts of reasons. You live in the wrong environment. I can't go outside. We looked at where the moon will be, and the moon will be out the front. There's a main road, and then the neighbours are going to see if I went outside that way. I could maybe get away with it late enough out the back, but not out the front. So I'm going to have to be inside. And that is how I am inhibited slightly. Some people are inhibited even more than that. They're not allowed to do it, or they don't have the space, or they just, for whatever reason, there are plenty of reasons. So, some alternatives to formal ritual for this full moon in particular. If you can, you could go outside under the full moon, and if you've got access to a beach with the sea, that would be perfect. If not, just outside under the full moon, and just feel the energies. Just feel the energies. You could say a poem or prayer, or just talk to the goddess. Under the full moon. You can just talk to her. She'll listen to you. You know, it from the heart. Just be, I'm sorry, I can't do this. I would like to do this, but I can't. And it's not an excuse not to, because, you know, if you can't be bothered, she's gonna know. And why would you be in the pagan path, or the Wiccan path, or the witch path anyway? Because if you can't be bothered, then. But I mean, there are plenty of other reasons. Being ill is one perfectly good one. She understands, you know. Incorporate moon foods. Milk and honey are really, really good. They're used to honour the goddess at this time. I'm going to be creating some crescent cakes, which are more like biscuits, but I have a recipe for those, and I'm going to go through them in a video all by itself, how I have created crescent cakes and what they look like, and if they turned out okay. Utilise your natural gifts, painting, crafting, anything where you bring something into creation, and just be, as you have done it, you can say in her honour. You could perform a simple thank you rite, easy as having a stick of incense, frankincense, eucalyptus and jasmine, 3 options you could use, or an oil burner with some camphor oil and tea light, and you just light it and just say thank you. Yeah, and just talk to the goddess in a general, from the heart sort of way. So this video was just covering what it is. Basically, I'm going to go through each step in a lot more detail. Probably each step will have its own video, and how I'm going to apply that to my blue moon Esbat ritual. It's so complicated. It's really not. But those are some alternatives as well if you can't do a formal ritual for whatever reason. You don't need tools to perform a circle and sit there and thank her. You know, just use your Jedi mind tricks. Just use your projected hand. So yeah, so don't get all concerned about ritual. Ritual is not boring. Ritual can be fun. You can bring in music and dancing and prayer and singing and magic and herbs and crystals and divination and tarot, and you can bring in all these things, and it can be a really enjoyable, fun experience. The Sabbats and Esbats are celebrations. They're celebrations. There is ritual, and people seem to think that ritual equals boring, stuffy services, and that's not true. So a ritual is a time where you go and celebrate the goddess, basically, and the reason to do it is to connect with her. The whole point in this is of being a pagan is it's a different spiritual path where you connect with the goddess and the god. So a ritual is a tool to utilise this. So I hope that made some sense. There are plenty of basic rituals and layouts of rituals in all sorts of Wiccan beginner books. The Scott Cunningham is just one. It's a fairly inexpensive, fairly easy to get wherever you are book, and I really like his books. They're really direct to the point, and there's some beautiful imagery in them as well. So if you're really looking for a book which will explain it very, very basically, that is one that I can highly recommend. So that was my Esbat Blue Moon video. What is a ritual in its most basic form? And I will be doing some more videos tomorrow. Each step of the way, so don't worry. The full moon is on the 31st, which is Thursday, I believe. Friday. It's Friday. Sorry. The full moon, the blue moon, is on the 31st of August, Friday night. So we've got a couple of days where everybody's like, I'm new, I don't know what I'm doing. It's okay, it's okay. You could do something simple and basic if you're really, really worried. I've given you some simple, basic alternatives. You don't have to do a full-blown ritual. But we will go through the steps. I'll try and get most of that done tomorrow, step by step by step by step, in little bite-sized chunks. For me as well, I mean, I've done ritual in the past, but this is my first formal, proper Esbat ritual. So, and tomorrow I'm going to do a fun video as well. I'm going to do one a week, I've decided, where it's a fun, uplifting, silly video, just to have a fun and have a laugh. So that was it for today. Have a very blessed day. I hope this makes some sort of sense. Blessed be.